All right, let's get started with some overnight developments. Gujarat MLA and Congress leader Jignesh Mevani was arrested from the Palanpur Circuit House late last night and has been brought to Ahmedabad. He will be taken to Assam and details of the case against him are not yet clear.
According to Jignesh Mevani's aides, they haven't been given a copy of the FIR yet. Mevani's Twitter handle shows that some recent tweets of his have been withheld due to requests from authorities.
And NDTV Saurabh Gupta is tracking those developments. In fact, actor Swara Bhaskar also tweeted about receiving a message from a friend that Jignesh had been arrested by the Assam police and that his phones have been withheld. No one has the FIR copy, questioning what is going on. Well, let's go across to Saurabh for more. And Saurabh, really, what is going on? What do we know? Assam police arriving in Gujarat and arresting an MLA.
Well, yes, that's true. In fact, at around 11:30 at night, what we're being given to understand by Jignesh Mevani's aides is that the Assam police team turned up at the Palanpur Circuit House in Banaskantha. And there, of course, he was placed under arrest and they took him away. He's being brought to Ahmedabad, and I mean, from there, of course, he'll be taken to Assam. I'm in Ahmedabad at this point, but there's no confirmation on whether he's being taken away by train or whether he's already been boarded a flight. So that those details are still awaited. But what we are being given to understand is that the police arrested him at 11:30 last night at the Palanpur Circuit House in Banaskantha, and then of course the reasons for his arrest still not clear. But he's an MLA, so there's protocol in terms of arrests. Also, the assembly speaker has to be informed. This will, of course, this is a breaking story this morning. The development came in only late last night. There are some tweets of Jignesh Mevani that have been, withheld at the request of authorities, or legal requests is what, if you go to Jignesh Mevani's Twitter handle, that's what it says. But we don't know whether the FIR is connected to these tweets, or there is some other case. The FIR is in Assam. The Assam police have come to Gujarat and placed him under arrest. But again, there is no clarity on what exactly the case is, what are the sections of the law that has been applied in the case, the details of the FIR. We are still awaiting those details. His aides, whom I spoke to this morning, say they are also equally clueless. They haven't been told by the police as to how he's going to be taken and where he's going to be taken and what exactly is the case against him. But Jignesh Mevani, just to jog your memory, is a young MLA, a Dalit leader. He won the election last time. He was one of those young winners in Gujarat. He had the Congress support. Later on, of course, he's with the Congress. But this is something, his growing stature within the Congress also in an assembly election year is something that has been talked about. So he's one of those politicians who has been seen as an up-and-coming politician in the Congress fold. And that is something that also is being, articulated by his supporters. Now, we're being given to understand that his supporters will hold protests. But, again, the exact nature of the case, what exactly the FIR entails, is something that we still don't know.
And sort of how unusual is that? We do know Gujarat is heading for elections, later this year. But how unusual is it for the police of another state to arrive and then just arrest an MLA in this manner, in which, and it happened at 11:30, his aides were there. We have those visuals from the guest house where he's being taken away by the police. But it's still not clear why he's been arrested. As you said, there are certain protocols when an MLA is arrested that need to be followed.
Yes, one of the protocols is that the Speaker of the Assembly has to be informed. Now, the police may choose to do it post the arrest, or we don't know whether the Speaker was, informed in advance. Those are details that, again, is still not there in the public domain. There's been no clarification on part of the Assam police on why they've arrested him, what exactly is the case against him, at which police station has this case been registered, was he served a notice to appear before the police, why did they arrest him like this, is he a flight risk, do they believe that he would have escaped the law, because he's at the end of the day, an MLA, a public representative. So simply vanishing into thin air is not going to be easy. There have been cases where politicians have not responded to summons, by agencies and not turned up. But eventually, if it's a politician, usually they have to appear because they are public representative, public figures actually. So also, usually, I mean, unless there's a very serious crime of and something, somebody has really, is a flight risk, could go underground. The protocol is to call them for questioning, here in terms of investigation. But a direct arrest is something that there has to be very solid reasons for that. What those reasons are, the Assam police really haven't shared. So that's something, and also the local police have to be informed. So again, all of these details are still not in the public domain. So clearly, there's a lot, to know actually, to get to understand before understanding why this arrest has taken place in the first place.
Developing overnight story.
Yeah, absolutely. Late night arrest there. Thank you so much, Saurav, for joining us. We will keep tracking the story and keep coming back to you for more on that. Moving on, today the Supreme Court will take up the issue of properties of these accused of the riots being demolished in several BJP-ruled states on Wednesday. An anti-encroachment drive in Delhi's Jahangirpuri area, tense after last week's communal clashes, was stopped following a Supreme Court order, but not before a bulldozer razed structures near the mosque at the centre of a Saturday's clash.
In fact, even after the Supreme Court's order came, which came around 10:45, the demolitions continued for nearly 2 hours. Petitioners told the Supreme Court, remember this plea was brought before the Supreme Court earlier, before the demolition in Delhi, and petitioners had told the Supreme Court that this action followed a familiar pattern like in states like UP and Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat even, where after communal clashes, one community was targeted with demolitions. Let's go across to Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, so now after the Supreme Court had issued the stay order yesterday, today the case will be taken up.
Well, yes, today the hearing will take place, and also there has been an additional application that has been filed by CPM leader Brinda Karat against the Jahangirpuri demolitions. She was there yesterday on the incident site as well, where she tried to stop the bulldozers, citing that the Supreme Court had ordered a status quo and that is why the demolition should stop. In her application, she is calling it an illegal and immoral act and a violation of the basic rights of people to employment and the right to shelter. She has also sought in her plea that there should be orders to the administration to offer compensation to all of these people, and that compensation should be given within a stipulated time frame. The main case, however, pertains to a petition by an organization called Jamiyat Ulema-e-Hind, which had said that these illegal demolitions across India are taking place without any court orders being issued, and that is why it's a violation of the fundamental rights to equality as well as the right to practice religion, and that is why the Supreme Court needs to put a stop to all of this.
Right. Thank you so much, Sukirti, for joining us with all those details. Here's a report on the bulldozer action in Delhi yesterday.
A morning of fast-paced dramatic events with the Chief Justice of India, no less, intervening to stop this.
First of all, we would like to show what exactly is happening in this area of Jahangirpuri. This is the exact spot from where the clashes started on Saturday. You can see the bulldozer already removing encroachment.
It appeared to begin with the BJP calling for bulldozers after communal clashes in what is by now a familiar playbook. This time in North Delhi's Jahangirpuri. On Tuesday night at 10, the Delhi BJP chief tweeted, asking the municipality which the party controls to demolish the properties of stone pelters in last Saturday's violence. This morning at 10, the North Delhi municipality rolled in bulldozers and began demolishing illegal structures on public road. However, the BJP mayor claims this was to clear the illegal encroachments, that this was routine and has the support of people. Elections to the municipality are due.
अभी तो हम जितनी भी पब्लिक लैंड के ऊपर जो कबाड़ियों ने कब्जा कर रखा था, अभी तो हम खाली वही क्लियर कर रहे हैं और आप ये देखें कि यहाँ के लोग काफ़ी खुश हैं और हमारी सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं.
North Delhi Municipal Corporation called the demolition clearing of encroachment on public road. However, served no notice to the shopkeepers or the residents, which is a legal requirement before any demolitions drive.
certain residents have come out here and they are fairly angry as far as the demolition is concerned. They are saying that they have been living in this area for a very long time and no notice was served to these people before the demolition drive started.
तो उस चीज के लिए हमें कोई भी नोटिस की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती.
Lawyers representing petitioner Jamaat-e-Ulema-e-Hind, who had filed a plea against illegal demolitions across India, appealed to the Chief Justice of India's bench, asking for an urgent hearing in a bid to stop the demolitions. At 10:45, the Supreme Court ordered status quo and halted the demolition. But the demolitions did not stop.
Despite the Supreme Court order of staying the demolition, we can show you right now live that right now demolition has again started.
ये DDA से अलॉटमेंट की दुकान थी, 1977 में अलॉटमेंट हुई थी, लेकिन कागज देखने का कोई राजी नहीं हुआ.
Municipal officials' defense was that they were yet to receive the hard copy of the court order. In the meantime, push carts used by low-income vendors, tin shacks, a fruit juice stall, bike repair shop, shop of electric goods. And perhaps most controversially, this, a part of the entrance to the local masjid, which was at the center of last Saturday's violence. That's when a procession for Hanuman Jayanti was taken out despite having no police permission.
Where I'm standing, there is a lot of crowd. This mosque had a gate here, which has been removed by the MCD bulldozers.
Today, the police stood on guard in large numbers while the BJP-led municipality bulldozers went to work.
माहौल शांतिपूर्ण है, पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी है और कानून व्यवस्था काबू में है. लोगों से हम संपर्क में हैं और जैसे ही हमारे पास ये आदेश निर्गत हमारे पास आया है, हमने एनफोर्समेंट ड्राइव रुकवाया है.
At 12 p.m., CPM leader Brinda Karat arrived, waving the papers, demanding the MCD to stop the demolition.
I'm here to ensure that already the law has been bulldozed, constitution has been bulldozed by illegal demolitions. At least the Supreme Court and its order should not be bulldozed.
It was only after CPIM leader reached the demolition site with a copy of court order the demolition was halted. Shortly after 12, the lawyer once again appealed to the Chief Justice to urgently instruct court officials, saying that the demolitions were on despite the order. The Chief Justice responded that they were communicating to the North Delhi Mayor through the court officials. At 12:30 p.m., the demolitions finally stopped, almost 2 hours after the court order. While the Supreme Court's immediate intervention prevented further demolition, this wasn't possible in earlier cases in other states. However, the court will be hearing a petition as punitive action against those accused in clashes, allegedly without the due process of law. With Sukirti Dwivedi, Saurabh Shukla and Akshay Dongre, Usama Shah for NDTV.
Now let's take a look at those affected in the bulldozer action in Jahangirpuri. Many had been running shops for several years and had received no notice at all.
That's right, and the legality of that is still in question, and whether it was Hindu, whether it was Muslim, all the people were affected by this action in that area that targeted shops near the masjid. The people now left to pick up the pieces of their destroyed livelihoods.
"43-year-old Sajid Saifi is trying to pick up the pieces of his life. He has had this electric goods shop at the Jahangirpuri Jama Masjid since 1985. In today's demolition drive, parts of it have been broken. Saifi earns about 30,000 rupees a month, is the sole breadwinner and has 4 kids.
2 मिनट का भी टाइम देते तो जो कीमती सामान था वो ले लेते. उसको तो बिल्कुल ऐसे तहस-नहस कर दिया, वो किसी काम का ही नहीं रहा. अभी प्रशासन से कोई उम्मीद नहीं है, हर दिन नए कानून आ रहे हैं. 16 तारीख से सब यहाँ पीछे डरे रहते हैं. किसके बच्चे को उठा रहे हैं, किसी को बच्चे को वो ना लगाते पत्थर के केस में.
40-year-old Jamila and her husband 45-year-old Hussain have been running their pan shop for the last 20 years. They say they've lost everything now.
पहले से बोल देता तो हम इतना नुकसान जानबूझ के करवाते. 50,000 रुपए हम लोगों का मायने होता. अमीर लोगों का 50-60 हजार रुपए कोई कुछ नहीं है. एक दिन का खर्चा और हमारा सालों का खर्चा है.
38-year-old Ashu's bike repair shop has been here for 17 years. but now it's demolished. He says he was not even in the area on the day of the riots, but is paying the price.
2 बच्चे हैं, 12-13 हज़ार महीना हो जाता है जैसे तैसे। अब जो 3-4 दिन यहाँ पे देखभाल करनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो सब उठा के ले जाएंगे कि इतना पैसा है नहीं जो हाथों हाथ शटर लगवा ले हम। गाड़ी सब तोड़ दी है, ये सब बुलडोजर मार के वो गाड़ी तोड़ दी है। बुलडोजर वहाँ ये ग्राहकों की गाड़ी है, लेकिन ग्राहक तो सब्र नहीं करेगा, उन्हें तो काम करके देना पड़ेगा, अपनी जेब से पैसा लगा के उधार कर्जा करके करना पड़ेगा।
यहाँ पर जितनी दुकानें तोड़ी गई हैं, इनका आरोपियों से दंगे के कोई आपका कनेक्शन है या और दुकानदारों का?
किसी का कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है, और पहली बात तो मैं उस दिन यहाँ था ही नहीं बिल्कुल।
50-year-old Raman Jha's pan masala cart was demolished and all his stuff taken away by the demolition team. He earned barely 6,000 rupees a month.
दुकान को बुलडोजर से ऊपर से तोड़ के उसको चकनाचूर करके गाड़ी में ले गए भर के। मेरी पान की दुकान थी।
कब से चला रहे थे पान की दुकान?
34 साल के आसपास हो गए।
34 साल की दुकान हो गए।
पहले मंथली जाता था
पैसा,
पहले थाना में जाता था। अब क्या करेंगे, देखते हैं कि अब यहाँ तो लगने देंगे कि नहीं देंगे, कहाँ जाएं, यही सोच के दिमाग आउट हो।
The politics over the Jahangirpuri clashes and the demolition will continue, but for those who've lost out on all their hard-earned money, life has come to a standstill. In New Delhi with camera person Sachin Gupta, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
All right, in the Supreme Court to hear the case about these bulldozer politics. But yesterday, top Delhi BJP leaders met with Union Home Minister Amit Shah at the Union Home Ministry headquarters hours after the controversial demolition drive in Jahangirpuri.
They met for an hour. Those in the meeting were Delhi's BJP chief Adesh Gupta, MP Ramesh Bidori, MLA Ram Bir Bidori and leader Maninder Singh Sirsa. Well, Congress as well as AAP and the left were united in their criticism on the demolition drive.
अगर देश में ये गुंडई, ये लफंगई बंद करनी है तो इसका सबसे सरल और सबसे बढ़िया तरीका है बीजेपी के हेडक्वार्टर में बुलडोजर चलाना।
इतनी खतरनाक पॉलिटिक्स चल रही है देश के अंदर, उसको पूरे देशवासियों को, नौजवानों को विशेष रूप से समझना पड़ेगा सच्चाई क्या है। खाली धर्म के नाम पे आप अगर हम लोग बिल्कुल एक तरफ सोचने लग जाएंगे तो वो देश हित में नहीं होगा।
All right, and as we said, the big story today will be that this case is going to be heard in the Supreme Court about the bulldozer politics that's taking place in several parts of the country.
Well, also what we will be tracking is the fact that will Prashant Kishor finally make an entry into the Congress party? That and a whole lot more coming up. Welcome back. Election strategist Prashant Kishor had another round of what was effectively a job interview at the Delhi home of Congress chief Sonia Gandhi on Wednesday.
And so the mystery still continues about when and how he's joining the Congress party. But apart from the team that was to evaluate his proposal, there were two more leaders there, Ashok Gehlot and Bhupesh Baghel, the chief ministers of the two last Congress-ruled states. A report on the matter is expected now within hours, is what the Congress has said.
Both Congress chief ministers today met Prashant Kishor at the party chief Sonia Gandhi's residence in what's effectively a job interview of the top political strategist widely seen as an election winner. Today was the fourth such meeting by the Congress committee. Now the Congress says they'll submit their report to Sonia Gandhi in the next 72 hours.
हम लोग भी लगातार जो ऐसी एजेंसियां हैं या जो ऐसे एक्सपर्ट हैं उन राय लेते रहते हैं, तो पीके का नाम बड़ा हो गया तो वो चर्चा में आ गया, बस इतना मैं मानता हूँ.
Committee members have told NDTV that Prashant Kishor's strength is data analysis and using it to the advantage of the party will be very useful. But a final political call has to be taken on how this will roll out and not ruffle feathers in the 137-year-old Congress party.
Srimati Sonia Gandhi has constituted a short committee to look at the various suggestions given by Shri Prashant Kishor, as also by certain very experienced people in the party.
The Congress has lost several elections since 2014, whereas the BJP has emerged victorious. Though there are many dissenters who don't want Kishor, they hope his entry or demise will end their losing streak. With camera person Prem Singh, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
All right, we have to wait a little longer for that suspense over Prashant Kishor's future in the Congress. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll focus on Ukraine.
Russia reports a successful launch of the Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missiles. Putin says it'll make rivals think twice.
Welcome back. Let's get you the latest now from Ukraine as Russia's invasion and aggression in the eastern part of the country continues. Now, Ukrainian President Zelensky has said he's ready to talk with the Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Speaking during a press conference with European Council President Charles Michel, Zelensky said that he was always ready to discuss the end of the war with Putin, but doesn't believe that Russia wants to have a peace settlement in Ukraine.
До пана Піскова нічого про це не чув, точно нічого не бачив. Впевнений, що нам нічого не передали. М'яч на нашому боці. Я, в принципі, непогано раніше грав в футбол в мирний час. Там які правила? Треба, щоб було дві команди і щоб був м'яч. Тут мені здається, що він сам з собою грає в футбол, пан Пісков, але на такі серйозні речі точно з ними не граються. А дуже серйозно треба ставитись. Тому ми обов'язково покажемо, як ми б'ємо по воротах, як тільки нам дадуть дійсно м'яч.
Ukraine's leader also said the situation in the country's east and south remained difficult as Russian troops pushed on with renewed attacks. In a video conference to the nation, Zelensky said the occupiers aren't abandoning their attempts to score at least some victory by launching a new large-scale offensive.
Ситуація на сході та півдні нашої країни залишається максимально жорсткою. Окупанти не полишають спроб за рахунок нового масштабного наступу вибороти хоч якусь перемогу для себе. Хоча б щось, що вони зможуть згодувати своїм пропагандистам. Дуже радий сказати з обережним оптимізмом, що наші партнери стали краще розуміти наші потреби. Розуміти, що саме нам необхідно. І коли саме нам все це необхідно. Не через тижні, не місяці, а негайно. Саме зараз, коли Росія намагається активізувати свої атаки.
And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that the eventual retreat of Russian forces from Mariupol would reveal far worse atrocities than the death, destruction and atrocities left in Bucha.
Speaking from Panama after a meeting to discuss migration issues with 20 other representatives of Latin American countries, Blinken said the attacks in Mariupol are worse than the previous advances.
The world witnessed just a couple of weeks ago when the receding Russian tide from Bucha revealed what was left in its wake in terms of death, destruction, atrocities. We can only anticipate that this tide also at some point recedes from Mariupol. We're going to see far worse, if that's possible to imagine. So the conditions there, the situation there as a result of this Russian aggression are truly horrific. We want to see people who are in harm's way, if they're able to, leave it safely and securely. The judgment on whether the humanitarian corridor established to do that from Mariupol is safe and secure is one ultimately that the Ukrainian government is going to make. We're certainly assisting in that process, giving our own evaluations and assessments, and ultimately the decision to leave is going to be a burden on the people themselves to make that very difficult decision.
All right, let's now focus on UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's maiden visit to India, and he has now arrived. There you can see Saurabh Gupta is also reporting on the trip. So UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is on a 2-day visit to India when the Ukraine crisis is also expected to figure and also focus on trade between the two countries. The India trip has been twice postponed, remember, because of the COVID flare-ups in each country. So finally, Boris Johnson there arriving in India on this 2-day visit, and Indian and UK businesses are set to announce investments as well as export deals worth over £1 billion is what we're told. So this is his maiden visit, and he's landed in Ahmedabad. So you can see Divya there, the streets of Ahmedabad from the airport, they're all decorated for this welcome. This is something we've become quite used to seeing now. Whenever a foreign dignitary arrives and the Prime Minister arrives in Ahmedabad, we see this sort of, decking up of the sides of the road for a big welcome. And there you can see the convoy there coming with the British Prime Minister. This is his maiden trip. As we said, twice his trip has been postponed to India, but now finally, and also arriving in Gujarat, something that's come under a certain amount of criticism from opposition. There you can see him, Boris Johnson, Bojo there, waving to the crowds. He must be happy to see such huge crowds there to welcome him in Ahmedabad. So a 2-day visit where it was also being speculated that he's going to be wanting to pressurize India on its relationship with Russia. That's speculation, but yes, the Ukraine crisis will definitely figure during this 2-day trip that Boris Johnson is making to India. On Friday, he's expected to hold talks with Prime Minister Modi in New Delhi on economic, security and defense collaborations. He's also expected to announce commercial agreements and a new era of trade, investment and technology and partnership between the two countries. So Boris Johnson arriving this morning on his 2-day India visit. So finally his maiden trip to India as a Prime Minister. He has of course been to India several times, but his maiden trip as a Prime Minister in India, arriving there in Ahmedabad. So Boris Johnson arriving this morning in Ahmedabad on this 2-day visit. Deals worth £1 billion are on the table during this visit. Lots of announcements are expected, commercial agreements and also hailing of a new era in trade, technology, investment and partnership. And as we said, the Ukraine crisis also expected to figure. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Raut. Our top story, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has arrived in Ahmedabad this morning for the start of a 2-day visit to India. UK and Indian businesses are set to announce investments and export deals worth over £1 billion in areas from software engineering to health. In Gujarat, the UK Prime Minister is set to visit a factory being set up by a top British firm and a biotechnology university working in collaboration with the University of Edinburgh. On Friday, Johnson will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on economic, security and defense collaborations. The Ukraine crisis also expected to figure in talks. So there you can see his convoy in Ahmedabad and a big welcome for him. As you can see, something that has become quite familiar in Ahmedabad when dignitaries arrive, that you have the streets lined with people waving flags and decorated as well. And you can see the British Prime Minister there waving to the crowds. Let's go across to NDTV's Saurabh Gupta, who joins us from Ahmedabad. And Saurabh, I believe you also waved at the British Prime Minister as he crossed you. Tell us more about his program in Ahmedabad today.
Well, the Prime Minister arrived in Ahmedabad, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and he's expected to make a visit to this place, Sabarmati Ashram, which is, of course, also known as Gandhi Ashram. You can see those photos there put up right, outside that board, showing the sign to Gandhi Ashram. Now, this is, of course, almost a pilgrimage site, in tribute to the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. But Boris Johnson also will be here. You can see, of course, these dancers from several states, whether it's Gujarat or whether it's other states of India or whether it's Bengal. This one, of course, is a Bengali dance, to also welcome Boris Johnson. And, of course, on the other side, there are pictures of the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, and Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel. And then, of course, on this side, a lot of people, lined up with UK and India flags to, welcome the Boris Johnson as he arrives here at the Sabarmati Ashram. And this is, of course, the welcome that's been laid out for him as he arrives in Ahmedabad on a 2-day trip. Now, what's on the agenda? Well, what we're being given to understand, although no official program, so to speak, has been put out by, the authorities, what we know is that he's also meeting industrialists, representatives of the dairy industry, top industrialists from Gujarat he'll be meeting. He's also coming to the Sabarmati Ashram to pay tribute to Mahatma Gandhi, and also you can see the welcome for him with UK and India flags lining the streets of Ahmedabad as Boris Johnson arrives here on day 1 of his 2-day visit. Tomorrow, of course, I beg your pardon, rather this evening he heads to New Delhi, the national capital, and there, of course, he will meet the Foreign Minister S. Jayashankar tomorrow, and then finally the Prime Minister at Hyderabad House also tomorrow. So these are, of course, the programs that are there. This is an important visit from the point of the MOUs, the trade agreements that the UK and India are working on. And we can expect some announcements in the national capital. There's no interaction, planned here. But Boris Johnson in the morning seemed quite excited to receive the welcome. He was seen waving to all of these, groups of people lining the streets of Ahmedabad to welcome Boris Johnson to the capital, to Gujarat first on day 1 of his visit. And then, of course, this evening he heads to New Delhi in the national capital.
All right, yes, Saurabh, I can imagine him being very excited receiving this warm welcome given, the frosty sort of treatment that he's getting currently in the UK, given the entire controversy over his lockdown parties, etc., his apologies. So Boris Johnson there arriving in Ahmedabad and will visit the Sabarmati Ashram. First, Saurabh will return to you for more updates there. But moving on for the moment, today the Supreme Court will be taking up the issue of properties of those accused of riots being demolished in several BJP-ruled states, being termed as bulldozer politics. On Wednesday, an anti-encroachment drive in Delhi's Jahangirpuri, tense after last week's communal clashes, was stopped following a Supreme Court stay order, but not before a bulldozer raised structures near the mosque at the center of Saturday's clash. So this was the area that saw clashes on Saturday during Hanuman Jayanti, and 4 days later you had this bulldozer action taking place over there, stayed by the Supreme Court, but it continued for 2 hours after the Supreme Court's stay order. Well, let's go across to Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, so today the Supreme Court will be taking up this matter, and it's not just the Delhi action, it's about all this bulldozer politics playing out in different parts of the country, starting from UP, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat as well. We've seen it there, and these issues brought before the Supreme Court that it seems to target a particular community after communal clashes take place.
Well, yes, the main petition in this entire case, which has been filed by Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind, it refers to these illegal demolitions taking place all across India and how they infringe the rights of minorities, both from various religions as well as from various caste groups. That was the main petition. However, certain more applications have been added to this petition now. One was by senior advocate Dushyant Dave, who is representing certain residents of the area of Jahangirpuri. He is the one who mentioned this application yesterday and had sought from the Supreme Court to cancel these demolitions, after which the court had ordered a status quo. So one application was that by the Jahangirpuri residents. Today another application has been moved by CPM leader Brinda Karat, who says that these demolitions in Jahangirpuri were not only illegal but also were immoral and inhuman, and she has said that the Supreme Court should order compensation for all of the affected victims. So now there seems to be a cluster of cases regarding the entire issue, and a bench of Justice Ellen Rao and B.R. Gawai will be hearing the matter somewhere around post 11 a.m. We are expecting that the case would begin.
All right, so that hearing to take place today. Well, let's now take a look at those who've been affected in this bulldozer action that took place in Jahangirpuri yesterday. Many had been running their shops and outlets for several years and had never received any sort of notice. And whether it be Hindu or Muslim, several people affected by this bulldozer action that targeted the shops near the masjid, and now the people are left to pick up the pieces of their destroyed livelihoods. Take a look at this report.
Forty-three-year-old Sajid Saifi is trying to pick up the pieces of his life. He has had this electric goods shop at the Jahangirpuri Jama Masjid since 1985. In today's demolition drive, parts of it have been broken. Saifi earns about 30,000 rupees a month, is the sole breadwinner and has 4 kids.
2 मिनट का भी टाइम देते तो जो कीमती सामान था वो ले लेते। उसको तो बिल्कुल ऐसे तहस-नहस कर दिया, वो किसी काम का ही नहीं रहा। अभी प्रशासन से कोई उम्मीद नहीं है, हर दिन नए कानून आ रहे हैं। 16 तारीख से सब यहाँ पीछे डरे रहते हैं, किसके बच्चे को उठा रहे हैं, किसी को बच्चे को वो ना लगा दे पत्थर के केस में।
40-year-old Jamila and her husband 45-year-old Hussain have been running their pan shop for the last 20 years. They say they've lost everything now.
पहले से बोल देता तो हम इतना नुकसान जानबूझ के करवाते। 50,000 रुपए हम लोगों का मायने होता। अमीर लोगों का 50-60 हज़ार रुपए कोई कुछ नहीं है, एक दिन का खर्चा और हमारा सालों का खर्चा है।
38-year-old Ashu's bike repair shop has been here for 17 years, but now it's demolished. He says he was not even in the area on the day of the riots, but is paying the price.
2 बच्चे हैं, 12-13 हज़ार महीना हो जाता है जैसे तैसे। अब जो 3-4 दिन यहाँ पे देखभाल ही करनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो सब उठा के ले जाएंगे, कि इतना पैसा है नहीं जो हाथों हाथ शटर लगवा ले हम। गाड़ी सब तोड़ दी है, ये सब बुलडोजर मार के वो गाड़ी तोड़ दी है। बुलडोजर मार, ये ग्राहकों की गाड़ी है, लेकिन ग्राहक तो सब्र नहीं करेगा, उन्हें तो काम करके देना पड़ेगा, अपनी जेब से पैसा लगा के उधार कर्जा करके करना पड़ेगा।
यहाँ पर जितनी दुकानें तोड़ी गई हैं, इनका आरोपियों से दंगे के कोई आपका कनेक्शन है या और दुकानदारों का?
किसी का कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है, और पहली बात तो मैं उस दिन यहाँ था ही नहीं बिल्कुल।
50-year-old Raman Jha's pan masala cart was demolished and all his stuff taken away by the demolition team. He earned barely 6,000 rupees a month.
दुकान को बुलडोजर से ऊपर से तोड़ के उसको चकनाचूर करके गाड़ी में ले गए भर के। मेरी पान की दुकान थी।
कब से चला रहे थे पान की दुकान?
34 साल के आसपास हो गए।
34 साल की दुकान हो गए।
पहले मंथली जाता था
पैसा,
पहले थाना में जाता था। अब क्या करेंगे, देखते हैं कि अब यहाँ तो लगने देंगे कि नहीं देंगे, कहाँ जाएं, यही सोच के दिमाग आउट हो।
The politics over the Jahangirpuri clashes and the demolition will continue, but for those who've lost out on all their hard-earned money, life has come to a standstill. In New Delhi with camera person Sachin Gupta, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
And now look at these poignant pictures of a childhood affected by the bulldozers. A young boy can be seen picking up coins and Tetra packs and candy scattered over the remains of his family's shop, which was demolished by the local administration on Wednesday. So soon after the bulldozers retreated, family members there coming out to retrieve whatever they could of their belongings. So he's picking up coins and Tetra packs and even candy yesterday. We saw this as it was happening, as he tried to pick up whatever remained of his father's shop. All right, let's go across to NDTV Saurabh Shukla, who joins us from Jahangirpuri. And Saurabh, you were there yesterday when the demolition was taking place, when the Supreme Court stay order had come, and even when they continued after that. What's it like this morning? I can see a lot of security still there behind you. The area remains tense.
In fact, they've increased the security, Gargi, and the gagging of media is also happening. You can see those people, the victims who are sitting there, and you are talking about a small boy. He's son of that man, the man in red t-shirt. And last night, we wanted to speak to their son, wanted to speak with them, but administration and the police personnel here, they have not allowed us. They are not allowing media to cross this rope. Yesterday, the demolition started from this very point. The cart was here, and they demolished 2 carts here, and then later they proceeded towards the mosque, which is right there. Manoj Thakur will zoom and to that picture of mosque, and encroachment right outside mosque was demolished, and almost 15 shops near mosque, they were also demolished, and when Brinda Karat arrived with the order, then they stopped the demolition. So you can see the police personnel and senior police officials, they are here, and from like 15 minutes back I got a call from Ajay Makan, who is ex-state chief of Congress. He is also coming here with the delegation of after Owaisi's visit yesterday, deployment has been more over here. And in fact, one thing, and you can see they are monitoring the situation with the drone cameras as well. And you can see the kind of intelligence failure that day happened on the day of Hanuman Jayanti. They were not aware the procession was there. They were there with the weapons in the procession, and as far as the rioters concerned, they also had weapons, they also had guns, and police had no clue about it. So super failure of police in this whole case. But now media is not allowed. We cannot speak with the victims. We cannot go to their house to listen to their plea. And you can see this shop was allotted by DDA. It was also demolished yesterday. This is the shop. Mr. Tyagi runs this shop. It was demolished yesterday. Even notice was not served. If they are removing the encroachment, they don't have to serve notices. But if they are demolishing shops and the properties allotted by DDA or houses, then they have to serve notice. And that 2-story building of Ganesh Gupta, it was also raised. That time Ganesh Gupta was roaming around with the documents, showing documents to DDA officials that this shop was allotted to him in 1977, but his pleas were unheard. And I'll just show you the 360 picture of this whole area. Shops are totally closed. People are facing difficulties. They have to go to offices, and the people who stay here, they are not economically very good. They are from the they're from the weaker section, and they have to go for their daily work. The shops are closed. People have no clue what is going to happen. In fact, they are saying that yesterday demolition drive happened. It never happened like this before, and they are saying the intentions were not good because there is encroachment everywhere. In fact, Gargi, we go to Connaught Place, we go to a lot of posh areas of Delhi. There are tin shades right above Starbucks, H&M, wherever we go. That is also encroachment, but they don't get demolished.
Right, and Saurabh, I'm very interested to see these kind of arrangements that are made behind you. You know, you're saying that you're not allowed to actually go across and speak to the people. We can see the barricades, we saw the rope, we can see there's a tent also near the mosque. So media is being kept out from that area, and it'll be interesting to see once, now you said the Congress leaders are going to be arriving there, whether they're allowed to meet the people or go forward or, speak to anyone.
Yeah, that will be very interesting. In fact, Gargi, let's do a reality check right now. See, I'll try and go to that side. They'll stop me and they'll tell me not to go there. In fact, they have deployed the paramilitary forces. See, these are the people, these are the victims. And yesterday night, I was late. Let's see. I'll try and cross the rope, and I will go towards it. Then they will stop. See, you can see a police personnel is trying to raise me. You said, yes, listen to that. Listen, देखिए. You can hear. So now we are not allowed to speak to the victims. सर क्या हो गया, मतलब इन लोगों की प्रॉब्लम हुई है. सुनिए, तो प्रॉब्लम हुई है, इनकी दुकान गई है, तो इनसे बात भी नहीं कर सकते हम. बोलिए सर, इनसे बात भी नहीं कर सकते. हाँ, नहीं तो आप भी तो रोक रहे हैं हमें. हाँ, तो so you can see Gargi. So that is the kind of gagging happening here. We are not disrupting any law and order situation. We just want to speak to the victims. We are not allowed. Media is not allowed. If you want to speak to them, in fact, they've been told by police personnel that you will not speak to the media. So that's what a guy was telling me just 15 minutes before. So they're not allowed to speak. We are not allowed to go inside. So that is the situation right now. I've shown this to our viewers, right, that and we cannot do anything here today because we have been cordoned off. This is the whole, that is the circle. We can stay here, we can do our lives, but we cannot go inside because police personnel don't want things to come out because they have raided the hawkers, the small gumti wala shops. They have nothing to do. It was their bread and butter. but they don't have even money to survive for 4 to 5 days, because when the demolition happened, in fact, the MCD, they have gathered that debris also, and they have taken it away. So that is why the boy, we are showing the pictures of that boy. He was trying to gather whatever is left below the debris, some Tetra packs of fruity, some coins he was trying to gather so they can survive for a few more days. So this is the situation right now at Ghazipur, at Jahangirpuri, where the riot and violence happened on Hanuman Jayanti.
All right, and those people had already been suffering since Saturday when the communal clashes took place. And as you can see there, Saurabh showed us the area cordoned off, the media all in one line on the other side of the rope, not being allowed to cross over, the people who've been affected not being allowed to speak to the media. So that's Jahangirpuri this morning, a day after the demolition drive took place there. We'll slip into a short break now and return with more. Also a look at the COVID situation in Delhi and Mumbai. In Delhi, mask wearing is back. That was damn good, yeah? Welcome back. Let's take a look now at the COVID situation, and masks have been made mandatory again in the national capital as COVID cases are rising. There's a fine of 500 rupees to be imposed for not wearing masks in public places. However, schools will remain open with fresh guidelines that will be issued. A strict action will be taken against schools that are not following COVID protocols. Well, to talk more about India's rising numbers in Mumbai and in New Delhi, we're now joined by Professor Bhramar Mukherjee, health data scientist, who joins us from Michigan. Thanks so much for joining us again on the program. COVID numbers are rising, so you're back on our screens with us. So thank you so much for that, Professor. What would you say on these rising cases in India? While absolute numbers, of course, remain very low, but there is a rise in numbers. In Delhi, over 1,000 cases have just been reported.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gargi, for having me on the show. And I do hope that I never have to come back to your show, talk about rising COVID cases. But we are definitely seeing an uptick particularly in Delhi, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, the northern belt, particularly in Delhi. And every time we see such an uptick, we know that it never stays localized, right? This could be the beginning of another wave. And that is why we have to be very dispassionate about it, not get very panicky or really spread such like fear, but also be very mindful and prudent about it and really active surveillance. I think that's the key. It has become so difficult to even capture COVID cases because even in the United States, many of my friends just do home test and isolate, and sometimes they don't even isolate and nobody has an idea. So given this situation, if there is an uptick in reported cases, we have to take it seriously to increase surveillance, to see if there are a cluster of cases and really understand that what variant is causing it, right? Sequencing becomes very important because is it BA1.2 or is it some new variant that is emerging? So I think that the mantra is that really be very alert, on high alert, enhance surveillance, but don't panic.
Right, not to panic. However, we have seen that schools have started physically and there are a lot of cases that are rising among the students, and we don't want to, of course, shut schools again. So what steps can be taken?
Yeah, so this is something that, we have been doing in-person classroom instruction in the United States since last fall. And there has been a couple of waves since then, but we have not stopped exactly because of this pros and cons and the trade-offs that the loss of learning is incredibly important. And, students have fallen sick, but we have always been masked in our classrooms, in our instructional spaces. So one-on-one meeting in well-ventilated spaces, I'm not so worried. But in tight classrooms where the ventilation is poor, you really need to have your mask on for your prevention and personal prevention and also for helping others. I also think that shutting down schools and colleges is probably not going to be a proactive choice at this point. The good news is that the youth, after getting fully vaccinated, and in our case, they were vaccinated and boosted, have good prognosis. They were sick, but the vaccines really kept us out of the hospitals. And so that's the good news. I do not recommend getting COVID because it is really difficult for some to predict who is going to get long COVID and for whom the symptoms are going to be lingering and debilitating. But definitely, I think the chances are the prognosis could be good for younger people, even if they fall sick. But I would say that take all precautions, right? We all cannot take the risk. Elevate your personal prevention. It's very hard when you let go of masks to put it back on, but we have to.
Right. And in fact, masks have been brought back in Delhi, and masks remain very important, isn't it? We've been seeing mask mandates being removed. There's a controversy in the United States as well over masks.
Yeah, that's exactly what we are seeing. As you know, that in the United States, there was a decision to remove mask mandate even in public transportation systems and in airplanes. And this is causing a lot of anxiety. And I do think that people should have choice, right, to protect themselves. And just like, your action is interfering with other people's health. You may be the beneficiary of a strong immune system. This may not affect you, but we need to have some social responsibility, not just individual responsibility. So I would definitely say that if I was in a crowded space with poor ventilation, I'm definitely going to adhere to my mask to protect myself and my loved ones.
All right, Professor Mukherjee, now I have a bit of a delicate question for you. There's been this entire controversy with the World Health Organization report on excess deaths during the pandemic. India not very happy with the findings. What are your comments?
So one thing I want to say that I'm on the technical advisory group at WHO, so I'm not going to comment as a member of that group, but I definitely, as a scientist, I have reviewed multiple studies now, not just the WHO study, and all studies point to underreporting factors somewhere. And if you took a range of all of these studies from 5 to 10, the Lancet study, which is published now by the IHME group, which appeared on March 10th, has the underreporting factor somewhere around 7 to 8, around 8. So, and this is not just one study, multiple studies. So there is cumulative evidence by many methods and many models, and using various different data sources, including the reported death data, but also household surveys and deaths in healthcare facilities, which point to this undercounting. But I think that I do think that India has done quite well in terms of managing the post-second wave, right? The fatalities. And also, even with that undercounting, deaths per million has been low. But there is absolutely no doubt that there is probably has been a massive undercounting, and the excess mortality is the right measure to look at to really understand and absorb the global toll of the pandemic. So I'll just leave my comments at that.
All right, a very diplomatic answer there. Thank you so much, Professor Mukherjee, for joining us on the program. All right, moving on to overnight developments, and Gujarat MLA and Congress leader Jignesh Mevani was arrested from the Palanpur Circuit House late last night. He has been brought to Ahmedabad and he's supposed to be taken to Assam by train or perhaps flight. We're not very clear, but no transit remand for Jignesh Mevani has been taken by the flight from Ahmedabad this morning. Details of the case against him are also not clear, but he had recently tweeted about the Prime Minister Modi and also about praising of Nathuram Godse. Those tweets have now been hidden by Twitter as they're disputed tweets, and many of his associates tweeting about his arrest. Swara Bhaskar, activist and actor, tweeted, just received a message from a friend that Jignesh Mevani has been arrested from the circuit house by Assam police and his phones have been withheld. No one has the FIR copy. What is going on? Earlier we spoke to NDTV's Saurabh Gupta for more details.
at around 11:30 at night. What we are being given to understand by Jignesh Mevani's aides is that the Assam police team turned up at the Palanpur Circuit House in Banaskantha, and there of course he was placed under arrest and they took him away. He's being brought to Ahmedabad, and I mean from there of course he'll be taken to Assam. I'm in Ahmedabad at this point, but there's no confirmation on whether he's being taken away by train or whether he's already been boarded a flight. So those details are still awaited. But what we are being given to understand is that the police arrested him at 11:30 last night at the Palanpur Circuit House in Banaskantha, and then of course the reasons for his arrest still not clear. But he's an MLA, so there's protocol in terms of arrests. Also, the assembly speaker has to be informed. This will, of course, this is a breaking story this morning. The development came in only late last night. There are some tweets of Jignesh Mevani that have been, withheld at the request of authorities, or legal request is what, if you go to Jignesh Mevani's Twitter handle, that's what it says. But we don't know whether the FIR is connected to these tweets, or there is some other case. The FIR is in Assam. The Assam police have come to Gujarat and placed him under arrest. But again, there is no clarity on what exactly the case is, what are the sections of the law that has been applied in the case, the details of the FIR. We are still awaiting those details. His aides, whom I spoke to this morning, say they are also equally clueless. They haven't been told by the police as to how he's going to be taken and where he's going to be taken and what exactly is the case against him. But Jignesh Mevani, just to jog your memory, is a young MLA, a Dalit leader. He won the election last time. He was one of those young winners in Gujarat. He had the Congress support. Later on, of course, he's with the Congress. But this is something, his growing stature within the Congress also in an assembly election year is something that has been talked about. So he's one of those politicians who has been seen as an up-and-coming politician in the Congress fold.
All right, Saurabh there reporting on Jignesh Mevani's arrest by the Assam police. Time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, a special team of the Tamil Nadu police will question AIADMK chief VK Sasikala. The ousted chief will get you all the details. Welcome back. A special team of the Tamil Nadu police will question ousted AIADMK chief VK Sasikala and the dacoity-murder of a security guard at the Kodanadu estate in the Nilgiris in 2017 when she was in a Bengaluru jail along with the late Jayalalitha. Let's go across to Sam Daniel for more. And Sam, give us details about this, this case and how come now this questioning is taking place?
Well, this happened, Garge, during the AIADMK regime in 2017 when Sasikala was serving the 4-year jail term in the disproportionate assets case, and the Kodanadu estate and bungalow is jointly owned by Sasikala and late Ms. Jayalalitha. And in 2017, a security guard there was murdered, and then a group broke open the bungalow there and tried to loot actually. Although at that time reports said, the police said, they had only stolen a few watches and crystal Renault. After the DMK government captured power, the police told the court that they have fresh information and they want to further investigate. And Sasikala is being summoned, police sources say, to ask specific information in terms of the documents that may be missing from the bungalow, or whether she has any information in terms of where those documents are. And Sasikala is being summoned after recently a former MLA, or an AIADMK MLA, was questioned by the police in Coimbatore. And the police team is expected to come at 10:30, and it's a nearly 9,000-acre property which Jayalalitha, when she was the chief minister, used as a second home, and she often, in fact, her office functioned from that estate or the bungalow there. And what makes this case full of twists and turns is that there were Besides that murder of the security guard, 4 other people died in mysterious circumstances. One is Kanagraj, a driver who the police say is the prime accused. He died in a road accident. On the same day, the accused number 2 met with an accident. He survived, but his wife and daughter lost their lives. And later, a computer operator in the estate died by suicide. So in this overall context, this case becomes interesting. We'll have to wait and watch whether police would get any concrete information to be able to nail or close this case. Gargi.
All right, Sam, thanks so much for joining us with that. So that questioning of Sasikala to take place today. Let's now get to the latest on Ukraine, and President Zelensky has said he's ready to talk with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Speaking during a press conference with the European Council President, Zelensky said he was always ready to discuss the end of the war with Putin, but doesn't believe that Russia wants to have a peace settlement in Ukraine.
До пана Піскова нічого про це не чув, точно нічого не бачив. Впевнений, що нам нічого не передали. М'яч на нашому боці. Я, в принципі, непогано раніше грав в футбол в мирний час. Там які правила? Треба, щоб було 2 команди і щоб був м'яч. Тут мені здається, що він сам з собою грає в футбол, пан Пісков, але на такі серйозні речі точно з ними не граються. А дуже серйозно треба ставитись. Тому ми обов'язково покажемо, як ми б'ємо по воротах, як тільки нам дадуть дійсно м'яч.
Zelensky also said that the situation in the country's east and south remained difficult as Russian troops pushed on with renewed attacks. In his address, he said the occupiers aren't abandoning their attempts to score at least some victory by launching a new large-scale offensive. He also noted Ukraine's Western allies had come to understand our needs better.
Ситуація на сході та півдні нашої країни залишається максимально жорсткою. Окупанти не полишають спроб за рахунок нового масштабного наступу вибороти хоч якусь перемогу для себе. Хоча б щось, що вони зможуть згодувати своїм пропагандистам. Дуже радий сказати з обережним оптимізмом, що наші партнери стали краще розуміти наші потреби. Розуміти, що саме нам необхідно. І коли саме нам все це необхідно. Не через тижні, не місяці, а негайно. Саме зараз, коли Росія намагається активізувати свої атаки.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the eventual retreat of Russian forces from Mariupol would reveal far worse atrocities than the death, destruction and atrocities left in Bucha.
The world witnessed just a couple of weeks ago when the receding Russian tide from Bucha revealed what was left in its wake in terms of death, destruction, atrocities. We can only anticipate that this tide also at some point recedes from Mariupol. We're going to see far worse, if that's possible to imagine. So the conditions there, the situation there as a result of this Russian aggression are truly horrific. We want to see people who are in harm's way, if they're able to, leave it safely and securely. The judgment on whether the humanitarian corridor established to do that from Mariupol is safe and secure is one ultimately that the Ukrainian government is going to make. We're certainly assisting in that process, giving our own evaluations and assessments, and ultimately the decision to leave is going to be a burden on the people themselves to make that very difficult decision.
And in Chernihiv, not far from the border with Belarus in North Ukraine, NDTV's Vishnu Shom tracks the damage to an Olympic training center which was first spotted in satellite images a few weeks ago.
We're standing at the Olympic Training Center here in Chernihiv, a major Ukrainian city about 40 kilometers south of the border with Belarus. Several weeks back, we had brought you a satellite image which showed on the football pitch over here a massive bomb crater. This is that bomb crater. It's been formed as a result of perhaps a 1,000-pound bomb landing over here, completely destroying this part of the football pitch. And the stadium that you actually see all around me has been completely devastated. This is an example of what the war actually does. Attacks on civilian areas, civilian property and infrastructure, every aspect of this. A lot of people over here in Ukraine say that all of this is being done to send out a certain message, and the message is to terrorize the local population, that at any time, at their will, at their beck and call, there will be attacks in areas which are familiar, areas which are civilian areas, which lots of people used to come over here to watch football matches. This is also used for athletics events in a city which has generated any number of sporting stars for Ukraine. This is yet another example of the dangers of war, which we've also seen in the south of Ukraine. In fact, in the last 48 hours, we have been traveling almost 2,000 kilometers across this country, from the north to the south, back right now very much to the north. And what we see over here, it's absolutely unreal. The destruction of something which was a popular training center. We've also spoken to people in Chernihiv, people who've told us about how difficult it was to survive in the city, survive in a city where there were constant attacks. Food and water initially was a problem, but there was always a sense that Chernihiv was going to completely collapse because it was encircled by Russian forces physically. Ultimately, that Russian advance into the city of Chernihiv failed. They lost the battle over here, the battle for Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, which lies about 3 hours south of where I am now. But the devastation over here, and it's this sort of devastation that we are now seeing in so many parts of the south and the southeast of Ukraine. It's out there, indiscriminate attacks in civilian areas, so much damage, the loss of lives. There are 700 odd people, we are told, who have lost their lives in the greater Chernihiv area. We'll in fact be traveling to a cemetery where many of those individuals have been buried. But for now, this gives you an idea of what it is to be over here very much in the center of this war zone. In other parts of the Ukraine, the war is on with renewed vigor. The sense that there was a pause in the war is now over. Russia continues its attacks in the south and the east. Ukrainian defenses are being tested. There are reports of people being finally able to leave that one bastion that the Ukrainians had maintained in the city of Mariupol, which is now almost certainly going to be completely in Russian hands. With Uma Shankar Singh and Ashok Mahale at the Olympic Training Center in Chernihiv in the north of Ukraine, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Okay, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson on a two-day visit to India arrived in Ahmedabad this morning, and he has now arrived at the Sabarmati Ashram, at the Gandhi Ashram. Let's go across to Saurabh Gupta now for more. And Saurabh, so you're there, and his first stop during his visit to India, he arrived just a short while ago this morning, and now at Sabarmati Ashram.
That's right. Boris Johnson just arrived at the Sabarmati Ashram here in Ahmedabad in Gujarat. This is, of course, the first pit stop on his two-day visit to India, beginning with day one at Ahmedabad. Now, he's here at the Sabarmati Ashram. He'll be presented with gifts, including a book written by Mahatma Gandhi himself, also a replica of the spinning wheel that is synonymous with Gandhiji, and also, he will here pay tribute to the Prime Minister, to Mahatma Gandhi. Now, you can see all over Gujarat there are posters that have been put up, of Boris Johnson, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel. Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel is already here to welcome Mr. Johnson, and of course, after the tribute to Mahatma Gandhi, Mr. Johnson has meetings with industrialists. He's also scheduled to visit a JCB plant in Baroda, and then of course come back and visit the GIFT city, which is the Gujarat FinTech city in Gandhinagar. And then of course he flies out to the national capital, where he has a packed day tomorrow. He will meet the Prime Minister. There's also a lot of talk about the free trade agreements, the MOUs that are to be signed. Mr. Johnson's visit also will look at several sectors. This is, of course, his, post-Brexit visit and his first visit to India in his capacity as Prime Minister. He did visit India earlier, Mumbai earlier, a visit that, we did cover a few years ago. but his first visit as Prime Minister, and also the fact that he's meeting several Indian top officials, beginning with this pit stop at Sabarmati Ashram. He spends the entire day in Gujarat, and then heads off to New Delhi, the national capital.
All right, thanks so much for joining us with that, Saurabh. So UK Prime Minister there at the Sabarmati Ashram. We'll slip into a short break and return with more.